Hello and welcome back. So in this video here, Lee is going to kick off work on his terrain code, if you will, the stuff he's been R&Ding recently. And there's probably going to be a little bit more of R&Ding going on live, just since this hasn't been something that's like actually planned out here. I do want to point out where this video was going to be a longer video with what we had planned to get accomplished in this one. We're going to cut this one short at about 15 minutes or so. We've got an interruption that's going to be heading our way in just a few minutes, but I wanted to make the most of the time and at least get this kicked off, and then after the interruption, we'll just pick right back up. So it won't be a problem, except for something that'll make those of you that like short videos a little happier. So Lee, go ahead.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to start off with, as soon as I get Photoshop to wake up, is we're going to start off first by creating this.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and fire off Visual Studio, and as you can see, we've already created our terrain demo to get some stuff going.
This is what was put together over in the very basic framework video you did.
Well, we're going to need another file in here. So Control Alt Insert. I'm going to create another class. This one is going to be my terrain patch. This is the class that I'm going to use to actually create a mesh, a terrain patch, hence the name. All right, so we're going to start off. Got code base demo, everything's good there. Now, first off, we're going to need a list to hold all of the vertices for the mesh. We're not going to be creating the mesh in this video, but we're still going to use the same structure to hold the information. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a private list. Go ahead and add system collections generic to it. This is going to be of type vector3, which also means I'm going to need Unity Engine, and I'm going to call this vertices, not vertexes, which I may call if I do. Yeah.
No, don't worry, guys. We have a lot of fun with that over here at Lee's expense.
Yeah, of course. All right, so this is going to hold a list of vector3s that are going to represent all of our vertices.
Okay.
Now, there's a couple of public properties that I want to get in here. One is going to be our patch size. So I'll just call this one size.
Yeah, because obviously you're not going to take and lock this thing down where it's all hard-coded. We're going to be able to go in here and play around with different sizes.
Right, and I also don't want to be experimenting with creating a patch of the size that we might experience. So I'm going to start with small patches.
Yeah.
And then with R&D, we've got to find the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
How big can we get? How small can we get and still have it look? And so if I've got the ability to change the size on the fly, so much the better. Along that lines, I also want to be able to change the density of the mesh. So this is going to be the spacing. This is going to control how far apart those vertices are going to be.
Okay.
So this is yet another property. So needs a getter and a setter. So we need our constructor. So we'll start off with public terrain patch. Now I want to pass in a couple of things in here. First is the size, and then I want to pass in the spacing. Also note the size is an integer while spacing is a float. I want to be able to have a spacing smaller than 1, or maybe I want to have a spacing of 1.5. By having a float that way, I can fine-tune that, but I can't have 4.5 in size. You can't have a half of a vertex, which would be kind of weird. So go ahead and add in my spacing. Now, let's go ahead and assign these as I get in. So size is going to equal size. Spacing equals spacing. And we're going to need to do something here. We need to create the grid. But I don't have a grid method, so I need one. So I'm going to make a void create grid. Yeah, I know, I put something green in. Don't have a heart attack. So we're going to create the grid. I don't need to pass anything to it. And I don't need to return anything from it. But what I do need to do is create a index to hold our counts.
Okay.
So this will come in.
When you say our counts.
Well, every time I add a vertex,
Mhm.
I'm going to increment the index.
Okay.
This comes in more importance as we go on.
Okay.
So because I want to make a two-dimensional array, I'm going to use use the prototype. This is going to be our Z, and I want to make sure that iterate through until size is or Z is less than size.
Okay.
And inside of here, I want to iterate through X. So Z is going to be our depth, and X is going to be our width.
Okay.
So again, this is going to be size. Now, to start off simply, we're going to do vertices, add, and we're going to add a new vector 3. And inside of this, we're going to pass our X times our spacing. This is where spacing comes into play.
Yeah, you're good.
What?
Nothing.
And then Z. And we're going to multiply that by spacing. So that's going to ensure that each one of our vertices that get added are going to be multiplied by spacing.
Okay.
Otherwise, each one would be exactly 1 meter apart. So that's going to be the code that we need to just put each vertex in. I also want to increment index at this point. Right now, it's not doing anything yet. Later on it will. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put a sphere at each vertex location. So what I'm going to do is make a game object. I'll just call this temp game object. And this is going to be game object create primitive of type sphere. Now I'm going to take the temp game object. I'm going to set its transforms local scale. And I'm going to set this at 0.1 for all 3 of its components. This is just to make sure that it's a lot smaller than the default 1 unit. I just want little spheres. The next thing I want to do is set its position. So we're going to set its position to be equal to our vertex location. So what we're going to do is take our vertices, I'll get it really. IntelliSense failed. All right, now, for now, I'm just going to put 0. So that'll just be the very first one. This, because I have a list, I need to be able to do more than once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate through my vertices. Now I'll just call this vertex. So now I can take this code that I put there, put it here, and instead of using this, I can use this one. So now it'll go through each one and put everything in its place. And see what it's complaining about. Primitive type. Because I use string instead of...
Can't you do primitive?
Yes. Primitive type dot sphere.
There you go. I when you typed that in, I was just thinking, wow, I'd never seen it done that way. I was thinking I'd learn something new.
No.
Darn it.
And local scale, I can't do that. Equals new vector 3. There we go. Just getting my head of myself as usual. Okay, now it's happy. So right now I have all this code in place, but it's not going to do anything until I come back here. So what I'm going to do is in the start, I'm going to go ahead and create my grid. So what I'm going to do is go terrain patch. Actually, I'll call it new terrain patch. And I'm going to pass in a size. Let's go with 5. and a spacing of 1. So everything builds. Let's see if it actually puts anything on the screen. So if I come back over here, make sure it compiles, hit play, and go over my scene. And it did nothing. Why not? Because I didn't load my scene.
Hey, there's a game manager. What do you know?
Yeah, now maybe it'll do something. And still didn't do
any
anything.
spheres down there yet.
What else did I miss? Let's see. Reload. And hit ignore. I don't want this to happen. All right. So start isn't getting called.
Did you go all the way back to your game manager? Start. Okay, it's calling demo start.
So it should be starting. Train demo. Let's see if it's actually being called. And I want to use this one. Nothing like a little debugging. Let's see what it says. Why are you not running? Starting train demo. Okay, that part's working. I know what it is. Terrain patch.
The green stuff got in your way, Lee.
Yes, it did. That's why I hate green stuff.
I love green stuff.
Well, I threw it in there just for you, and look at what happened.
I figured that. It bit you. Hey, I see spheres.
All right, so now if I go ahead and let's click on the first sphere and rotate in. So
we've got some spheres up there.
Yep, and I'm trying to find the one that's at 0, 0. There it is. Because I want to be able to orient the camera in the same thing. So as you can see, we're going in the lower left to the upper right, and we have a grid. So you want to call it at this one, and we'll come back?
Yeah, since we've got that quick interruption that's about to take place, let's go ahead and call it here. It's a good stopping point, and we'll pick back up here in just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much.